Oh, what a day. What a lovely day. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm Mace, just a Canadian dude here in the West Coast, making videos on the internets. And that's basically it. Yeah, that's all I got to say. That's the end of the video. No, I'm just kidding. Avoid these mistakes when you're in Australia, if you're moving to Australia, etc., etc. No worries. So funny. I've been told in the comments sections. I'm really loving the comment section. It's given me a lot of good feedback, a lot of just interesting and hilarious takes, and just funny like comments where it'll seem like an insult, but then later on in the comment they're like, "But actually, you're good, mate. Love it, really enjoy it." I don't take anything as an insult, anyways. This is the internet. You're putting videos on the internet. You're gonna get insulted. You're gonna get made right. You're gonna get roasted. That's what this is. But you got to be genuine. You got to be genuine about it. It's all good. I don't really, it's fine. But yeah, the no worries thing. I found it hilarious that I've seen in so many comments that that's a very Australian thing, and you hear it throughout the day. Like, you're going to hear it. You're at the grocery store, like somebody steals your spot. No worries. Like, somebody steals your spot by accident, I should say. Just simple things, like simple mistakes. And if somebody apologizes, no worries, right? And this happened to me. I was just at the store. I worked today. I stopped at the grocery store for a couple things, and I came back out to my car, and this guy is like, he's very close, very, very poor parking job. And I was walking around, I was looking, and then he comes running up. He says, "Oh, I'm so sorry for my parking, man. I'm so sorry." I said, "Hey, no worries, man. I got to run to the liquor store." Boom, boom. But yeah, I did say that. I did say, "No worries, man. It's all good." Same things, just Canadian things. All right, let's go.
You're here in Australia. Let's get started. Disclaimer. This is based on my experience. If you have a different experience, leave a comment below. And let us know if in your country all these things are appropriate or not. The first thing to avoid doing when you're here in Australia is to hug or kiss people when you just met them. Australians really value their personal space and their privacy. They like to keep.
This seems like super, super obvious to me. I don't know if it's I know that there is cultures where hugging and kissing people when you just meet them is normal, but it's totally alien to me. It would never happen. Like, in all my experiences in life, I'm not hugging somebody the first time I meet them. Unless I know them, like, say my brother's spouse or something, and throughout the pandemic, I never met them, and then like 3 years later, when we finally went to the States, like, I hugged them, but we had like video calls and like correspondence. But like, yeah, no.
Keep a bit of physical distance. In my case, in my culture, we tend to say hi with a kiss on the cheek, but yeah, not here in Australia. Usually you shake people's hands or you just say, "Hi, how you going?" And that's it. If you already know them, usually you just give them a hug. Another thing that you should avoid doing when you're here in Australia is not looking people in the eye. When you're talking to an Australian or someone who lives here, you make direct eye contact to demonstrate that you're actively listening to them and that you're engaged in the conversation. If you're looking other way, they might think that you just are not listening or you don't care about what they're saying.
Yeah, that's an interesting one for me. Like, I always try to make eye contact. But I always find it awkward if you just, like, if you're talking to somebody and you make continual eye contact, especially if you don't know them that well. It can get to be a bit much. Like, I'll have to look away, like, "Oh, yeah, yeah," and then, like, yeah, I'll continue speaking to them, but just continual eye contact, like a staring contest, that's too much. Playing loud music in public spaces. Totally hate these people. They should be thrown in hell.
Another thing that you shouldn't do when you're here in Australia is playing music out loud in public spaces, especially at the beach or when you go to a campsite or when you're hiking. People are going to nature, to the beach, to relax, to listen to the birds, and they don't want someone playing.
My pet peeve is like on public transit. You got some little person playing music on like a little speaker on the train or whatever in a public area. Put on some bloody headphones or just get yeeted to outer space, or just burn in hell. That sounded harsh. That sounded really harsh. I'm obviously kidding. That's hyperbolic. But yeah, these people, there's something wrong with them, and they weren't raised right. They weren't raised right. If my kid was doing that, he's getting a smack upside the head. It's all jokes, man. It's all jokes.
Music out loud. Always wear your earphones and everything will be fine.
Facts. Wear your earphones.
Something that you should avoid in Australia is not being direct. If you have a question, just ask. Of course, always be polite and respectful, but you should always ask if you have a question, because this shows, especially at work, this shows that you are engaged.
Good. I like it.
Another thing that you should avoid when you're here in Australia is gossiping. It's about someone else's appearance, especially at work. It's not nice. It creates a lot of distrust, and you can actually get fired if someone finds your comments to be offensive or racist. So you have to be very, very...
Oh, it depends who you're talking to, right, mate? Seems to me this one is, yeah, of course you don't want to create a toxic workplace. But if you're in private with somebody that you know and trust, you can speak and make jokes as long as you know that these are jokes. But yeah, you want to avoid making a toxic workplace, and you never want to make people feel uncomfortable. You want to make people feel as welcome as they can be, as long as they are forthcoming and as well willing to be, you know, a collaborative and person who also wants to make the workplace somewhere fun and productive to be. You just don't want people there that are troublemakers, right? People spreading gossip, and I've worked with people like that. For sure, I've worked with people like that where like their whole day is talking shit about other people, and it's like, and sometimes I would be there and I would just kind of quietly remove myself from the conversation, because I don't like to speak about people like that when they're not there to defend themselves, and when I personally don't think they're that bad. And hey, don't throw rocks in glass houses, man.
Be careful with that. Another thing that you should avoid is not responding to invitations. You always have to RSVP. That is, you always have to reply to an invitation, whether it is for yes or for no. Don't let them hanging or guessing whether you're going to be able to make it or not.
Common courtesy, like it.
And speaking of invitations, something that you should avoid is not bringing something to a party. Even if the person tells you to not bring anything, at least bring a box of chocolates or a wine, but never come empty-handed. Always
common courtesy. You know what we called that in my high school days? A little bit of CC. Common courtesy. And it's realism. It's realism. Have some common courtesy, man. Have some common courtesy. I mentioned on just the video I made earlier, I'm going to mention my channel name change, the WTMac thing. Later on in the lore and the history of this channel, I'll mention the origin story of WTMac, what it means, all these little phrases. Realism. It's called realism. It's called common courtesy. CC. Common courtesy, man. CC. Have a little CC. Being late. Yeah, don't be a prick. Show up on time, especially if you have something organized and planned. I don't want to be standing there looking at my phone like, are they coming or not? Like, the fuck? It's just not polite.
Australians love punctuality. As I said in all of my other videos, Australians will get offended if you are late. And not only Australians, people from other cultures who live here as well. Just be respectful of people's time.
Common courtesy.
Another thing that you should avoid is to showing up to someone's house unannounced. Australians like to make appointments for a lot of things. I'm not going to generalize here because this doesn't apply to all Australians, especially when you're younger or if you're living in a regional area or in a little town. It's more common to pop up unannounced, but in big cities or big communities, usually you just organize with your mates to...
I feel like this one definitely depends on whose house you're showing up to and how old you are, what the context of it is. Like, I used to show up at my parents' house all the time. I don't live in their city now, so I don't do it quite as often, but every once in a while I'm in their city and I will show up unannounced. Of course, my parents love it, right? I love to see my parents. They love to see me. We don't get to see them enough, so of course they love it when I show up unannounced. Who cares? Like, right? It's great. But I'm not going to go show up to, like, my buddy who has 3 kids and I don't even know if he's going to be... yeah. You don't... There's a time and a place. There's a time and a place. T&P.
See them at a specific time, because otherwise you might just rock up there, there might not be anyone, and also it's a waste of time for you. So yeah. Another thing that you should avoid is talking about politics or religion. Again though, I'm not going to generalize, and this doesn't apply to all Australians, but in general, you should be careful when talking about politics or your opinions about religion. As someone said in one of my videos, if you're with your friends, you might have a bit more trust with them to talk about these things, but usually you can sense whether everyone feels comfortable or not. So you have to test the waters. Yeah, it's something that, for example, in my culture, we debate a lot about that over the table with friends, with family. We don't really mind. We have very heated debates as well. But here I find that it's not the case so much. In general, be sensitive. Another thing that you should avoid, especially if you're working, is speaking in a language that people around you can't understand.
Of course, the people that can't understand feel left out, and it's just rude. Again, context, I think, is important in the situation, but if there's 5 people in a room, 5 of them can speak English, and 3 of them can speak another language, and 3 of them just start speaking all together in that other language, the other 2 are going to be like, what the fuck? It's like, we want to be part of conversation, just speak English. Yeah, again, context, I guess. I kind of feel bad too that I'm not able to decipher quite yet what her nationality is or what her accent is. I could have found out before the video, but I didn't. But maybe I'll find out afterwards. I think it's like, I don't want to make any stupid guesses and look really super ignorant. But
if you're having lunch with your colleagues and one of your colleagues is from your same country, for example, you both speak Spanish, and you speak in Spanish but no one else can understand, you should switch to English, just out of respect for the other people who are around
just explain exactly
you could
what
be
I said.
making fun of them, but they've no idea. Yeah. Another thing that you should avoid when you're here in Australia is littering. And I know that I'm going to get a lot of comments from people saying, oh, why are you saying that? It's obvious. And I'm sorry, but it's not obvious. There are many people who litter a lot, and that's something that first you can get big fines for that, or you're going to get someone telling you, hey, don't litter, and it's going to be very humiliating. And yeah, we need to take care of our nature, our parks. If you go camping or if you go hiking, grab a rubbish bag, put all your waste there and just take it back home. Because I've been to, for example,
people who litter are the devil. Bobby Boucher. Anybody seen The Waterboy? Yeah. I don't know if anybody has, but The Waterboy, Adam Sandler, the devil. And yeah, never mind.
The Grampians National Park, and sometimes you do see a lot of rubbish, especially during public holidays. And really, I just don't understand why. But yeah, that's something that
I personally can't stand that. I do a lot of like wilderness and outdoorsy stuff, and out in just places where there's nobody. And if I see a bag of chips or like a can, I get triggered. And if I track that person down, who knows what'll happen? Who knows what will happen?
Litter. Not picking up your dog's poop.
Same thing.
Really, I can't believe that I'm saying this, but I've lived in a country where this is not usual, and people just leave their dogs.
This is basically a list of things that people that belong in hell do.
Waste there on the street, and then I walk and I step on it and I'm like, why? So yeah, and also you can get big fines as well. I think up to $200 for not picking up your dog's poop. Just saying.
You deserve it too. Should be more.
And speaking of fines, another thing that you should have.
If you have a dog or a pet and it poops and you just leave it there, first of all, you don't deserve to have that pet. And second of all, you don't deserve to have that pet. Third of all, you're a horrible pet owner and inconsiderate.
It's not paying for public transport. I've seen many cases where people come and then because you're on the tram, no one really sees you, so they don't pay. They don't touch on or touch off. But there are many inspectors, especially in big cities. You'll see lots of inspectors hopping on the train or hopping on the tram and checking whether you paid or not. And they can charge you around $75 or $100 for not paying. So that's the fine.
Good.
And another thing relating to fines is that if you're in public transport, don't put your feet on the seats. I was with a friend. She had come on the work and holiday visa and we were on the train and she put her feet on the seat just unconsciously. She was tired and an inspector came and they said, this is a $100 fine. And she was like, what? Yes, you're putting your feet on the seat. And they asked her for her passport and everything. And my friend couldn't even speak English. And she was like, I'm sorry, I don't understand. And then they were a bit compassionate and they let her go, but they gave her a warning. So yeah, they're very, very strict.
Yeah, that's...
Another thing that you should avoid is...
It's a shared space, right? It's a shared space with other citizenry, other members of your society. You should have some respect for that shared space and not go putting your feet up on shared spaces that people are sitting in, right?
Haggling.
CC.
In many cultures, you're always negotiating to get a bargain, but not in Australia. You just pay the price that they give you and that's it, but you don't haggle. And another thing that you should avoid is not saying thank you, please, or just being polite. Australians are super, super polite. I know in big cities, when you bump into someone on the street, not many people say that, believe it or not. But yeah, here in Australia, it's very, very common. It's so ingrained, saying, I'm sorry, or yes, please, thank you. If you're late to an appointment, for example, you call them beforehand and you say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm going to be late. It's just basic manners and politeness.
Basic manners and politeness. Why do we have to explain this? There's so many children within society. Basic manners.
Another thing that you should avoid is saying what? Like, for example, if you didn't understand someone and you didn't understand what they said, you should say pardon or I beg your pardon.
Yeah. My go-to personally is pardon me. Simple. Pardon me.
Sorry? Oh, can you say that again, please? Okay, so these are the mistakes that you should avoid when you're here in Australia. I hope you find this video entertaining, and if you liked it, please like and subscribe to support the channel, and I'll see you next time.
I like her. Very informative and well done video. Simply live in Australia. Let's see if we can figure this out. Martina. I migrated to Australia nearly 10 years ago. I completed my bachelor's degree in psychological science and master's, got a professional job upon graduating, and a PR and Aussie citizenship soon after. Congratulations. My professional background is in settlement and job-ready community development programs. That's awesome. I like this community-oriented profession. Still doesn't say where she migrated from. Website. You know, 10 years ago, okay, yeah, but you never said exactly where. Let's check out one of these links. Why? I feel like it's like European, but potentially like Baltic, or not Baltic states, but like and not Russian. It's like, I feel very, very dense right now. Huh. If anybody knows, let me know in the comments. I feel terrible. I just want to listen to another one of her videos for a second. Wait, let's just go back to this.
Okay, let's talk about mistakes or things that you shouldn't really do when you're here in Australia. Let's get started.
Not South America. It's like Europe, but...
In your country, all these things are appropriate or not. The first thing to avoid doing when you're here in Australia is to hug or kiss people when you just met them. Australians really value their personal space and their privacy. They like to keep a bit of physical distance. In my case, in my culture, we tend to say hi with a kiss on the cheek, but yeah.
What culture say hi with a kiss on the cheek? All right, you guys, I feel terrible. This video ended on a horrible note, but what can you do? Please let me know in the comments if you figured this out for me. I feel bad. I feel horrible. All right. Peace. Bye.